All right, welcome everyone to the Conscious Woman Book Club for the month of May. This is the book that we're reading, and it is chock full of insights and full of lots of interesting points of discussion for all of us to dive into. So let us begin. As always, especially for those of you who are new, we will begin the first with 10 minutes of key highlights from the book. So we'll share with you what we believe are our top three ideas from the book. Then we'll have you break out into smaller groups, and the bulk of our time today will be in those groups, and we will give you prompts for discussion, which will be guided by the book fairies, and then we'll wrap up with announcement for the book for the next month and the way forward. So let us begin. First of all, before I even begin, I'm curious to know how many of you read the book, because I know there's been a lot of activity in our WhatsApp group around uh, reading diligently. We've been so impressed following your schedule. I forget if it's every night or once a week or how often, but it seems like a lot of you have been meeting regularly to read the book. Okay. Okay, so quite a few of you have read the book. Even if you haven't, no worries, no worries. We will take you through some key ideas, and you'll still be able to have a very meaningful discussion in the breakouts. All right, let us begin with our ideas. Here's a first idea, and I think this really gets to what the book, what the core essence of the book is. You and everyone you know are going to be dead soon, and in the short amount of time between here and there, you have a limited amount of fucks to give. Very few, in fact. And if you go around giving a fuck about everything and everyone without conscious thought or choice, well, then you're going to get fucked. So essentially, really, what Mark Manson is saying here, and I think this is really what gets to the heart of his key message, is not that we don't care about anything at all, although the title would lead you to believe that's what he's saying. What he is saying is that given our time is limited, given our energy, our attention, pretty much anything you can think of is limited, we have to, each and every one of us, we have to consciously think about what is it that we are going to care about. And when you pick and choose what you care about, it makes it easier for you to then let go of things that don't matter as much. So, this first idea is really about really making a very, very conscious choice about what is it that you are going to choose to care about. And I think one idea, and now that we've, as a book club, we've read so many different books which have really spoken to the same idea. We can connect the dots between books as well. I really like this idea of your life jar. So if you think about the jar as your life, the rocks are the things that are the most important things to you. So, and you get to choose what those are. It could be your relationships, your family, your career, your interests, your health, your fitness. You get to choose what these rocks are. And then you have the pebbles and the sand, things that are again, it's really up to you, how much beyond the core essentials of your life, how much you want to give time and attention to other things.
I lost Bhavna. Has anybody else also the same?
I think there must be some connectivity issue. I'm just reaching out to her and asking. So
Oh,
just give us 2 minutes. She should be back.
yeah.
Sorry about that. All right. So we were talking about this concept called a life jar. Now, if we go by what the world wants us to care about and go by the n number of things that can grab our attention, and we start to fill it with the sand and the pebbles and the things that don't really matter, there's very limited amount of space left for the rocks. So that is not what we want to do. What we want to, if we really want to mindfully make space for the things that matter, you begin first with the rocks. So if you look at the picture on the right, for if you do that, if you first fill the jar with the rocks, the things that really really matter, then whatever time, energy, space, attention is left, yes, fill it with other things. But we don't want to give an F about every damn thing, as Mark Manson says, because if really if there are a limited number of things we can care about, it is really up to you what you choose to care about. So the first question we would love for all of you to discuss in your groups is, what are you choosing to let go of? Let's begin with what we let go of, um, and what would that be for you? Here's the second idea. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for. I think this is so, so, so beautiful and so powerful. And it's an idea he really explores deeply, even in his second book that he wrote after this. But this idea that instead of constantly chasing happiness, why not pick and choose what is the pain or the struggle that you choose to pursue instead, not for its own sake. We're not, he's not saying, we all become a sadist and start pursuing pain for the sake of pain. No, we pick and choose the pain or the struggle we're willing to endure because that is the thing that then brings us joy and meaning. And anything that is going to bring us a sense of meaning in our lives will involve struggle from the smallest of things. Whether it's even something like, we want to work on our health and fitness, it does require effort, time, attention, struggle. It's not going to come easy. Family requires time, attention, struggle. Our work, anything that you may choose to define as meaningful to you, um, instead of avoiding pain, and I think this is a really beautiful extension of that quote, to try to avoid pain is to give too many fucks about pain. In contrast, if you're able to not give a fuck about the pain, you become unstoppable. So, really, again, this idea of, instead of really chasing everything or chasing happiness, to meaningfully pursue pain or struggle. So, the second question we'd love for you to discuss in your groups is, what is the level of pain you are willing to endure to fill your life with the things that bring you meaning and joy, with the marbles that bring you meaning and joy? What is the level of pain that you're willing to endure? And finally, the third idea, again, a powerful one, is, if you want to change how you see your problems, you have to change what you value or how you measure failure and success. Given that we may not always be able to control the events of our lives, and what happens in our lives, and the only thing we can influence or control is how we respond to the events in our lives and what happens in our lives. um, we can we can really, again, make a choice about what is it that we're choosing to value, and what we choose to value, and how we measure failure and success in our life will then ultimately really also again contribute to that sense of meaning and joy in our lives. And again, this story, this is now the second book that we read in the book club, which speaks to this story as well. And and in the last few chapters, he talks about this idea by sharing two parallel lives of two musicians who had something very, very similar happen to them, but they both responded differently. So if you remember, this was something we covered in The Gap and the Gain as well. And again, in Mark Manson's book, he talks about how if you look at the two, one of the two of the most iconic musical bands, Metallica and Beatles, both had something very, very similar happen. Metallica let go in its early years of an artist called Dave Mustaine, and Beatles let go of someone called Pete Best, who was the fifth Beatle. And you can just imagine if you are let go of um, from what then goes on to become a huge success, that missed opportunity can if you don't take a conscious approach, it can completely break you. And it's really interesting how these two individuals respond to that. Dave Mustaine goes on this. It's almost like he takes it upon himself that to prove to Metallica that he doesn't need them. He can be just as successful, and indeed he does become very successful commercially. He goes on to form this band called Megadeth, sells millions of albums. Nonetheless, many, many, many years later, when he's interviewed and asked how he's doing and how he's feeling, in a moment of weakness, he does reveal that actually he was never able to get over the fact that he was let go of from Metallica, and that's always been a source of regret in his life. And pretty much everything that he done from that point on was almost to seek validation for himself. And in contrast, Pete Best, when he was let go of from the Beatles, of course, initially it was it was very tough for him. And at one point, it got so difficult for him that he even contemplated taking his own life. But better sense prevailed, and with the help of his family, he was able to move on. He eventually then met somebody, had a family, and settled down. And when he was asked years later what his reaction is, or what his how he feels about being let go of from the most famous band of all time, he's like, you know what, actually that was possibly the best thing that ever happened to me, because only once I was let go from this band did I then go on to meet my wife, my loving partner, and I have beautiful children now, and I have just the most amazing life. So I am thankful for that day. So two similar things happening to two different individuals, but they both reacting differently. Again, here the idea Mark Manson is touching upon is that you get to choose. So whatever that is for you. And so the final question really that he leaves us with in the book is, how are you choosing to measure your life? What are those marbles in your life that you're choosing to give an F about? What is that for you? Because whatever it is, and this is to a great extent defined by your values, that will determine whether what you consider to be a success and what ultimately brings you happiness. So let's discuss these three ideas. Thank you to the book fairies. And even if you don't happen to have a book fairy in your group, don't worry. Any one of you can volunteer. We're going to share the questions with you into the breakout rooms. So please go around the room, spend 10 minutes each on each question. Starting with the first one, if there are a limited number of things you can care about, what are you choosing to let go of? Pursuit of pain, what are you willing to struggle for? What are those marbles you're willing to struggle for? And what is, how are you defining success for yourself? What is your measure of success? At the end of the day, how do you decide what is success and happiness to you? So these are the three questions. Let's move into our breakout rooms. Shreya, whenever you're ready, we'll give you 35 minutes for this, and then we'll come back as a group and then have a discussion.